Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Terminator 2. Yes, that's what I'm reviewing for you today. And this is going to be a somewhat controversial review because my opinion on this film is somewhat controversial and tends to upset people. But there we go. I don't know why. So let's get into this. So welcome back everyone. So obviously Terminator, the 1984 James Cameron original, was released on 4K, well, officially today, Monday. I got it a few days ago, prior to the weekend, and I watched it at the weekend and I done a review for it. And I said, do you know what? I'm going to review the whole of the Terminator franchise. Yes, I'm going to do all of the... How many films are there? Is it 6? 3, 4, 5, 6 films, is it? I'm going to review them all. However, I'm not going to review them in release order. I'll come to that towards the end of this video here. I'm going to do it a bit differently. So here we are now with Terminator 2. Now, for this release, I didn't watch the 4K, or for this review, I should say. I didn't watch the 4K edition. I watched the Skynet edition, okay? I watched the extended cut of the film, not the theatrical cut. And yeah, so obviously this film here, it came out in 1981. I remember that. I went to see it. I went to see it at I went to the cinema at Greenwich Picture House to see this movie. I remember I was still in school. I went with some school friends. It's a great film. It's a good film. It's a great film. Is it a brilliant film? I think it's got flaws. I honestly do. And that's what I want to talk about today in this review, for the most part, as well as anything else. So, again, you know the story of this film, so I won't go too deep into it. It continues on from Terminator 1. It's set about 10 years later. Sarah Connor is in a Pescadero State Mental Institute. Her son, John, is with these foster parents. Another Terminator gets set back in time to kill John Connor. This being the T-1000, the liquid metal robot, played by Robert Patrick. And you have Arnold Schwarzenegger returning as a T-800, Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, to come back and protect John Connor from said liquid metal Terminator. A lot of chasing ensues, a lot of fantastic action ensues, some good special effects, and yeah, and that's basically the film. They're quite simplistic films, really. So like I said, it was the extended cut of this film. So I will start by saying this is a good film. It's, you know, is it the best of the franchise? We'll have to find out in my ranking, when I do a ranking, when I've completed all of the films. So I won't say that. I won't commit to this being the best of the franchise at this juncture. So I don't really know where to begin, because I think that this is a flawed movie. I think that this film has issues, and the primary issues in this film, that the most niggling issues for me in this film, is all in the setup of the movie, and not just the setup of the movie, but it coincides with how the movie was spoiled prior to release with its marketing campaign. So the best way to watch this film, and I honestly, I would, really wish that I could strike these films from my memory and go into them completely blind, watching Terminator 1, then watching Terminator 2, because obviously you're meant to go into this film thinking, oh, Arnie's been sent back in time to kill John Connor, and a human resistance fighter has been sent back to protect him, in this case Robert Patrick. Because when this film opens up, we get Arnie going into a bar. You know, I need your clothes, your boots and your bike and all that stuff. And we have Robert Patrick appear by this, near a police car. The policeman looks like he gets punched in the stomach, gut punched, unconscious, whatever. And Robert Patrick steals his uniform and the car. That's how it's supposed to look. However, we knew going into this film that actually Arnie was the good guy and Robert Patrick wasn't. But the way the film is structured is that you're not meant to know this. You're not meant to know this until that point in the movie where they're in the shopping centre, they're in the sort of corridors in the back, and John Connor's caught between the T800 and the police officer, knowing what the T800 is, only for the T800 to tell him to get down, then shoots the police officer, who is liquid metal. And at that point, the big reveal. However, because the film was rated 15 upon release, it couldn't have the violence that the first film had. So when Arnie came back through at the beginning of Terminator 2 and he goes into the bar, he doesn't kill these people. No, he doesn't kill them. He just beats them up a little bit. You know, he stabs one of them through the shoulder blade, throws some through a window, this sort of a thing. He doesn't go in ripping their hearts out and stuff like that, like what he'd done in the bloody first film. No, it's a lot more milder than that. And then we get him asking this geezer for, you know, or taking the shotgun off of this geezer and taking the geezer's sunglasses off, all played to Bad to the Bone. Bad to the Bone. This is turned into a comedic moment with that music playing, which makes no sense because at this point in the film, you're not meant to know that Arnie is a good guy. So, see what I'm saying? So the film progresses, and obviously we get to that point where you have the switcheroo of the two and we find out the truth. The other question on my mind is, hold on a minute, Skynet's not meant to be able to send through anything unless it is flesh or covered in flesh. So that begs the question of how does the T-1000 come through the time portal? Just because he looks like a human doesn't mean that he's read as a human, like as flesh. And I know people are going to now jump on and say, well, actually, there was meant to be a scene. I don't care if there was meant to be a scene. There isn't a scene, okay? So it doesn't work in the lore of the first movie and what was set up. You could also say, well, actually, Carl Reese didn't know what he was talking about. Okay, I've read the comics of the Terminator. I know that they use humans, or they have used humans as sort of carrying hosts for their weapons. So they open a person up, they'll stick a weapon inside them, they'll send them through the time portal with themselves, and then when on the other side, they will tear out the weapon, killing the person. They've got their futuristic little ray guns and this sort of thing. Okay, so this film needed something akin to that, but that in itself opens up other problems in the narrative of the movie. You'd have to give away that the Terminator is who he is and this sort of a thing. However, I'm pretty sure that it could have been worked into the narrative of the film later on with Sarah Connor just asking the question, how have they got away with sending this thing through when it's not flesh? Because she would know that only flesh comes through. She would have learnt that. And Arnie could have said, blah, 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 comes through in a flesh cocoon or something like that. Do you know what I mean? They could have done something like that. And just the line would have rectified that issue. Now, the other issue I have with this film, this is going to sound like a really negative review, but it's a great film. Okay, it is a great film. But another issue I have with this film is Edward Furlong. Edward, he's not a likeable individual. He's not a likeable child. He's not a likeable child actor, right? I don't like him at all, right? I think he's an obnoxious little twat in this film, okay? He's got a rap sheet that's, well, about 4 things long. He goes off stealing money from bank accounts. He's at 10 years old, riding around on a little dirt bike at 10 years old. Come on, right? You know, and he's a bit of a prick to his foster parents, who, are they that bad? They don't really come across as being that bad, but you know what I mean? He deserves a bit of a slap. So I'm not a fan of Edward Furlong, right? And I know people have issue or take issue with humour that occurs in some of the other Terminator movies. Terminator 3, I'm looking directly at you. But some of those humorous elements occurred here in this film. They started here. The stuff with trying to get Arnie to smile, trying to copy the person's smile. There's these sort of cringy moments like that. Now, for me, this is a long film. It's about 2.5 hours long, okay? But there's a certain juncture in the movie where this movie just kind of dies a death. And it's more so apparent in the non-extended cut, in the theatrical cut. And this is the element of the film where you leave Pescadero State Mental Institution and the film doesn't really come back to life again until the latter part of Sarah Connor attempting to kill Miles Dyson and then going to Cyberdyne, or what would be Cyberdyne, to destroy all the stuff there, right? Now, it is quite a sort of boring middle section of this film where your attention starts to wane. However, it is better in the extended cut because there's more to it. I can't believe I'm saying there's more to it. It's longer, so it's better. It's better because it has a lot more character moments in there between Arnie, between the young John Connor, and this sort of stuff that actually works for the film and actually gives you a bit more depth there in those moments. Okay, so I do think that this movie is somewhat flawed. I actually done a talk on this, right? I was at work one day, I was in a course, and they wanted each of us just to stand up for 5 minutes and talk about something. So I stood up in front of a room full of people, right? And bear in mind, I've been in this job for nigh on 20 years. So, and I said, okay, who's seen Terminator 2 in this room? Majority of people in this room were male. Okay, there was about a dozen people. 2 people put their hand up. 2 people put their hand up, and that was it. I was in shock. It made me feel old, right, and out of touch. I don't know. I'm like, wow, only 2. Well, this talk ain't going to go very well then, is it? But anyway, so I think this is a great film. It's a fantastic film, but it's a flawed movie. Okay? And I have issue with certain parts of it that I've just discussed. And like I said, a lot of that is in the setup for the film, and it's in the in what was the marketing for the film, letting us know that Arnie. And the fact that the film was rated 15, which I understand why it was rated 15, because the film had an elevated budget. They needed to make that money back, so we lower the age rating to get more people through the doors. All right, I understand how it works. It just doesn't work for the movie, in my opinion, but still a great film. However, there are little niggling moments where, you know, I can see that a gun is cocked, then the gun isn't cocked, then the gun is cocked again when someone's putting it down into their trousers, being the Terminator. Okay, Terminator or not, it's stupid to cock a gun, stick it down in your trousers. Okay, you'd have it uncocked, right? Just silly moments like that. Also, I do think that at the very end of the film, there's a certain moment where the bit where Arnie's about to send himself down into the lava, and John Connor's trying to stop him, and he's going, no, I must go, John, I must go. It's so poorly acted. It really is. In the sense that it sounds like it's someone, I'll liken it to someone in a relationship or something, saying that they're gonna leave, but they know they're not gonna leave. They just want the other person to say to them, no, I don't want you to leave, please don't leave. But they're saying everything to try and let them believe that they are leaving, but it doesn't sound sincere. Comes across like that to me. So there we go, you know, a little talk about this film, and I've been really negative about it. I have been really negative, but I think it's a great film. It is a great film. I just don't think it's as good as what most of people out there think that it actually is, because I have these narrative problems with the film, and I do have a way to rectify the film and rectify the story of the film. And I did do or rectify these moments. I did do a video on that some time ago on how to make this film better. But yeah, so is it a review or not? I don't know. It's a talk about Terminator 2. What can I say? I do think some of it is looking a little bit dated now. Obviously, these were early special effects, CGI effects, so you can't expect anything. You know, so again, that's me knocking something. I don't like knocking effects for the time that they came from, you know. But yeah, the time they came from, you know, I think the transition between Vanskaz in Aliens, when she turns into the Robert Patrick, you know, after she kills John Connor's stepfather through the mouth with the big spike. That's a bit sort of... And at the end, when the Terminator is silvery and in the water coming up, it was sort of like Lawnmower Man-esque kind of effects there as well. But yeah, a great film. Just for me, a film that is somewhat flawed in its structure and its presentation of its narrative. That's just me. But there we go. So my talk on Terminator 2. Now, like I said, I'm gonna watch another Terminator film, and I'm gonna watch that Terminator film tonight, and then I'll move on to the others, but a bit of a slower succession. Right, I won't be doing them nightly because I've done 3 Terminator films on 3 nights now, near enough. And the next Terminator film I'm going to watch is actually Dark Fate. Yes. Now, Dark Fate I've only seen the once. I've attempted to watch it a second time and I switched it off. But I thought to myself, hold on a minute. Dark Fate is meant to be the real Terminator 3. Okay. I've watched Terminator 1. I've watched Terminator 2, which clearly closes this saga off, and it would have worked perfectly as just a 2-film series, because... but now I want to watch Terminator Dark Fate after watching 1 and 2 to see whether it actually narratively works properly as a part 3. So I'm going to be going into this film, watching it as Terminator 3, so to speak. And then I'll work my way back to Terminator 3, Salvation. So 7 Terminator films. Christ almighty. Now, is that right? No, that's wrong. There's 6 Terminator films. Terminator, Terminator 2, Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis, and Terminator Dark Fate. So six Terminator films. I don't know, where am I going with this? But yeah, so I'm going to do Terminator Dark Fate next. So come back for that review, and be sure to let me know your thoughts about Terminator 2 down there in the comments, and my thoughts on it, which I know are somewhat controversial to people. But there we go. So Terminator 2 for you. See you on the next one.